Welcome back to the Links Golf Podcast. I'm Al Lunsford, digital editor for Links, joined by Joe Passov, my co-host. If you can tell by the nasally voice I've got going on, spring is starting to spring. I think my allergies are acting up a little bit. So, for the time being, I'm effectively talking with my fingers over my nose, but we're in this. It may be a false spring for me, Joe. I think the weather continues to kind of roller coaster here in North Carolina. It's going to be cold again in a few days. Whatever that groundhog is up to, I'm not too keen on it, but uh, spring is right around the corner at least. The Masters is coming, everything's coming up spring, and it's getting a little bit warmer. How you doing out there in Arizona?
Hey, okay. Yeah, we're having kind of near record heat. Not that we ever really need that anymore this week, but it's quite pleasant. It's high 80s, and there are a few things blooming because of that, and a few sneezes going on from folks, but going to go down into the mid low 70s again in just a few days. So, yeah, no, it's just fine, Al.
Generally, always is for you pretty pleasant. But how about our conversation today? We'll talk about spring break, where you can go, our favorite destinations that mix in golf and some other things to do. We are going to focus today on the Sun Belt of the United States, not just a college conference that includes App State and Coastal Carolina and Arkansas State and Southern Miss. As I've come to learn, the Sun Belt is not just that conference. It's generally a part of the United States below a certain line, I guess, is considered the Sun Belt. So essentially like the southern third of the U.S., Joe, from what I could tell.
Well, all right. I'll give you your geographic props for doing that research. And, I have to say, when, the Northeast has had a little bit of an old-fashioned winter these last few weeks or so, maybe a whole month. But even in the South, Al, I've talked to you several times where you said, hey, it's snowing out.
Yeah, unusual around here that we've gotten a few cases of snow, and this is not to say you couldn't go and spend your spring or spring break somewhere in the northern half of the U.S. I'm sure there's plenty of places that you can go play and visit, but we're generally focusing on the old reliables in terms of states and destinations that, when springtime comes around, are fantastic in terms of weather and the golf that's going on as well. So let's get right into it and start our list. We're going to do a 3 and 3 as we've done, and our listeners are familiar with. Pick 3 destinations each and run through them. So I don't have a coin to flip, but if you want me to go first, Joe, I'm happy to. I think you went first last time.
All right, fair enough.
Well, my first pick will focus on the golf capital of the world, Joe, and that's Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, the Grand Strand, as they call it. So I guess not technically just Myrtle Beach, but there's over 90 courses in the Myrtle Beach area in that golf capital, as they market it. Um, One is fantastic for the amount of beachfront, and that's going to be a common theme for me in terms of this conversation. Spring break on the surf, where you can mix in time at the beach with really good golf. But Myrtle Beach, I mean, the highlights are almost endless. You talk about the places to you can play golf include the Dunes Club, Golf and Beach Club, Robert Trent Jones Sr. design, home of the PGA Tour's Myrtle Beach Classic. That's going to be played again this year, this May 8th through 11th. You've got the 4 courses there at Barefoot Resort, the Norman, Love, Fazio, and Dye courses in Myrtle Beach. 54 holes at Myrtle Beach National, including Kings North, that a lot of people like. Move on down through the area. Polly's Island is very popular. That's probably my favorite section of this Grand Strand, with Mike Strands' Caledonia and True Blue, the recently renovated Polly's Plantation. Jack Nicklaus and Troy Vincent came in and did some work recently in the past couple of years. I love the courses around Litchfield, where my family goes on vacation, including places like the Tradition, the River Club, Litchfield Country Club, and more. Really good TPC course in Myrtle's Inlet, TPC Myrtle Beach. Uh, all the way up the other way, you could go to the Big Cats Golf at Ocean Ridge Plantation and play four courses there in Ocean Isle, technically over the border into North Carolina, but still kind of qualifies in that Grand Strand because it's right there. Otherwise, as I did on my bachelor weekend before my wedding, head over to Top Golf next to Broadway at the beach, where there is too much to do in terms of entertainment complexes. I highly recommend Ripley's Aquarium if you have a family with young kids. That's a fascinating place, but uh, there's no shortage of things to do in Myrtle Beach. It's been a popular spring break destination for years and years, and when you mix in golf into that equation, I think it's a perfect place on this list.
Well, yeah, Al, I mean, with whatever choices we might make, or whatever choices anybody might make, uh, I think Myrtle Beach is the place to start. Uh, so, so great call on that one. When we talk about spring break, which is our overarching theme today, a lot of people in the last generation or two associated with college spring break and going somewhere and going kind of crazy and letting loose. And that's what you do when you're 19 or 18 or 20 or whatever. No, I mean, spring break also was, when we were kids in school. Um, and quite frankly, it was the family time to get away. And so, whether we're talking about these destinations strictly for buddies trips, well, no. I mean, they can also be family trips. They can also be couples trips. They can be whatever they want you to be. It's just where do you go to get away for great golf, warm weather. I mean, that's the Sun Belt that we referenced at the beginning of this conversation, but also some fun things to do. Good variety of dining options, and then, hey, when you're not playing golf, can we have some fun, uh, off the golf course and that sort of thing. So, yep, we could fill up a whole hour just simply naming all the quality Myrtle Beach golf courses. You did a very good job of identifying the different locations and areas, pockets, if you will, of wonderful Myrtle Beach golf. Yeah, yeah, longtime fan, and even being out west, I mean, it's worth getting back to, given the quantity and quality. So,
Yeah, top to
um,
bottom. I mean, you're only looking at like an hour uh, max to get to any of these places if you're going from one end to the other. Like you said, plenty of places to wet your whistle. I recommend Calabash if you're in hankering for some good seafood. Uh, yeah, plenty of stuff to do in Myrtle Beach, and there's no shortage of tea times either.
well, for my first pick, uh, would be, gosh, guess what? My backyard, Phoenix, Scottsdale.
Who would have thought?
Very popular spring break destination for families, but also for bachelor party, buddy trips, that sort of thing. And it's easy to understand why. Uh, right now we're late February and spring break. Typically, kind of think about mid-March, late March, um, possibly into early April. So Phoenix Scottsdale just offers phenomenal weather uh, for those activities that you want to do outside, including golf. And obviously, the later you wait, the more daylight you have to play the golf course you want. So when I think of spring break and having fun, I mean, Phoenix Scottsdale is blessed with a whole bunch of wonderful golf courses, but you're like, well, okay, what? We're just having fun, fun. And what are some of those examples of like, yeah, this is just going to be a blast, and we're not going to stress too much. Um, I mean, we've got a handful of those golf courses, along with, some really, really challenging, tough, gorgeous courses. But for a little more relaxed fun, We talked about Weekapaw on our very recent podcast. The Saguaro course there, the Bill Coore Ben Crenshaw design, is a good starting point because it's really wide. And so if you're just getting off the plane, if you haven't played much, you can belt the driver around and not worry too much about finding the desert, at least too often, and a fun walk too. But there are some other places in town. One pretty close to the airport, Papago, a city-owned layout that is now home in the last couple of years for the Arizona State University men's and women's golf teams. Golf course goes back to the early '60s, designed by the Bells. Well, young Billy Bell, who finished up Torrey Pines, and it's like a little bit of a desert golf course with desert accents, but the desert isn't too thick on either side. You have good mountain backdrops and it's rolling and long. Really, really good spring break kind of golf course. Another one that I have to mention is the boulders, especially the South Course, the front nine, one of my absolute favorites if for spring breakers because it looks like you're playing golf in bedrock with the Flintstones, with these giant boulder complexes right off the bat. First tee and backdrop at 5, tee box at 6, 7, 8. Just really, really fun. And then there is Talking Stick. Doesn't get the kind of the big bright lights that some of the other courses do. They're more subdued efforts, but again, really fun, really easily play and walk, both Bill Coore, Ben Crenshaw designs. And within Talking Stick, they have all kinds of attractions, hotel, casino, an entertainment district, batting cages for baseball. Cactus League Baseball, 15 teams playing here, including the Cubs, the Dodgers, and the hometown favorite here, the Arizona Diamondbacks. And again, just all kinds of activities for families. Even a place not far away from there called Putting World. And we've got a lot of putting different facilities. Putting World's a blast because it's 18 great holes, putting fun, but they have instruction. They have putter fittings where you can buy a putter. And so it's kind of one-stop shopping for the flat stick. Anyway, that's my pitch for Phoenix Scottsdale. It's not like I need to lobby all that hard, but yeah, I mean, with so many top-ranked public courses and a kind of golf you don't see anywhere else in the country other than down south in Tucson, yeah, it tops my list for spring break.
I was wondering where you were gonna go with this in terms of the courses you mentioned. I love Talking Stick is kind of like people know about it, but it's sort of under the radar still as well. Great chance to play Bill Coore and Ben Crenshaw golf, and wonderful casino there too. Uh, Laid back, another one I've played that I loved is Camelback. Um, Extremely laid back, and maybe on the more affordable side as well. Um, Another good one I've gotten the chance to play out there is Greyhawk. I really enjoyed playing there as well with my dad. And we did spring training on a trip that we did out there, so can't speak highly enough about how fun that is. I'll mention that again later in our conversation with another destination, but love springtime in Arizona, that's for sure.
Yeah, and again, Greyhawk is one of those, the vibe. It just says spring break. Great places to
Yeah.
eat, but you go hit balls on the range and you've got rock music coming out of the speakers and it's just like, yeah, you're there and it says fun, capital letters.
That's what I was gonna say. I think I was in high school when I took this trip, and I remember the rock and roll range at Greyhawk being one of those things. Like, oh, this is cool. All right, different feel. And hey, if you want to take spring break early and start that in February, then you can go to the Waste Management and make that your trip too.
Right. Let's just make spring as long as it needs to be to have a good time.
I never really know when spring starts. It creeps up on me. I always kind of use the Masters as a barometer, but I think we're pretty well into spring at that point.
Well, yeah, again, subject for future research for sure.
Next for me is out in Southern California, kind of the area surrounding San Diego, Joe, is I think another underrated place to go and spend spring break or any time. And the weather's always great in San Diego, as everyone knows. Um, Obviously, you start in La Jolla at Torrey Pines, north and south. You could go over to the Fairmont Grand Del Mars is one of the nicest hotels I've ever stayed in, and a great Tom Fazio course that they have there as well. Rams Hill, another Tom Fazio, not too far by either. Over in Carlsbad, headliners include the Omni La Costa, whose North Course was renovated recently in 2023 by Gilhan's Jim Wagner, in anticipated to host the NCAA D1 Golf Championships. Uh, Generally positive all around reviews of the changes and updates there. You've got Arnold Palmer's Aviara Golf Club, which for years and years hosted the LPGA Tour. I got the chance to go out to the Kia Classic, as it was known at the time, there. Just a beautiful, beautiful golf course. I know, Joe, you wrote about it at one point as one of those courses that resembles Augusta National because of all of the horticultural elements, the beautification of that property. Um, and also the tailor-made kingdom. I mean, if we're talking about golf experiences, and you want to experience something that gets you improved in your game, um, TaylorMade's facility out there is, I would say, one of a kind, but they have a facility at Reynolds Lake Oconee too on the East Coast. But um, there's no better place to get fit for clubs and have exclusive access to tailored to playoff TaylorMade fittings and custom club uh, recommendations. I mean, TaylorMade Kingdom is going to get you exactly what you need to fit your game. There's also local gyms downtown. Coronado is a course that plays right downtown, one of the big bridges there in San Diego, in full view. I like venturing up to Oceanside, not only for the great local shopping and places to eat and drink and the beach there, but for Goat Hill Park, a local favorite in the San Diego area, sort of executive course that is all walks of life are welcome out there at Goat Hill Park. It's just a charming and fascinating place to relax and play pretty good golf as well. Um, Obviously, San Diego has a very vibrant downtown. There's a Sea World there. The San Diego Zoo is very popular. So again, there's no shortage of things to do in San Diego either. The weather's always going to be good. If you're considering somewhere different for spring break that you might not have initially thought of, San Diego should maybe be on the top of your list as well.
Well, yeah, you're talking about a city that calls itself America's greatest city. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But I mean, yeah, the climate generally is superb. So, what to know about the climate, though, is if you come out in February, but especially March, April, it's going to be mild on the coast and coastal breezes. So if you're looking for that, the sun seekers that really, really want to soak it up, I mean, be careful, put on your sunscreen and all the rest. You have to go a little bit more inland. And the further inland you go, it's a very Southern California thing. It just gets warmer and drier. So as you're investigating San Diego, understand that there's so many attractions to being on the coast in San Diego proper, but a little different weather than you would is even if you go 10 miles, let alone say 25 miles inland, where it changes pretty good.
Yeah, maybe a common theme too, Joe. And you talk about the waste management in February in Arizona, the farmers there at Torrey. If you have a tournament in February on the PGA Tour, there's a good chance it's a good place to go that time of year. So, a key indicator there.
Yeah. Right. The founding fathers of the tour all those years ago, kind of figured that out.
Yeah,
And even the notion of follow the sun, that's what it was in those early years of, the ragtag band of pros playing for fairly minuscule purses in those days, but kind of had to go where the sun was shining at that time of year.
right. Where else is the sun shining, Joe?
Well, I can tell you for sure that come February, March, and into April, Cabo San Lucas in Mexico, or Los Cabos, more formally. And that is the southern tip of the Baja Peninsula. So if you're in San Diego and just go straight down south for about an hour and a half to 2 hours by flight, that's what it is from Phoenix or Los Angeles. Los Cabos is the official name because it encompasses the two different cities, but more or less we loosely refer to it as Cabo, because Cabo San Lucas is where the ocean meets the sea, meaning the Pacific Ocean and the Sea of Cortez. And again, it's like Scottsdale by the sea in that you've got these hillsides and mountains that are all covered with cactus, but you have the ocean and the Sea of Cortez right there as backdrops, and in some cases playing right next to them. So you're just about guaranteed sunshine. There aren't many bargains to be had if you go play golf in Cabo. Okay, I mean, just accept that going in. But when you're practically guaranteed sunshine, along with some sea breezes and fun nightlife and great resorts and everything, it's kind of worth it when you come right down to it in terms of a value proposition that you're not going to get rained out. So, yeah, it does happen once every so often. January is much more common for rain, and so is December. So in Cabo, yeah, there's a fairly pricey lineup of wonderful modern golf courses. I'll add that, and many of the top modern architects. So Jack Nicklaus is ever present in Cabo, and I think for just the fun factor. I mean, folks who know me, I love Diamante, and especially the original course there in the dunes, designed by Davis Love III, or Love Golf Design. And then, of course, that's where Tiger's first completed golf course is El Cardinal. It's a little more challenging to get onto Diamante these days. You kind of have to stay at a rental unit there and get access. But for easier access and unbelievably spectacular golf, it's Jack Nicklaus's Quivira. And man, when it opened, it did polarize people because some of the holes were so spectacular. You're like, well, is this playable or is this just fantasy calendar stuff? But in time, folks have come to appreciate that whether you think every hole is worthy of textbook, doesn't matter. You're just having such a good time with the thrills, the elevation changes, and the dramatic holes that play up and down the hillsides and right over the ocean. And specifically, they changed the numbering a couple years ago when they swapped out a hole or two. So it's yeah, the par four sixth, short par four at 310, the par three seventh at 180, and then the par three 14th at 148. Literally, tee and green hug the cliffside over the ocean, and you are guaranteed to wear out your iPhone or whatever device you're using, taking pictures at that spot. So, yeah, big plug for Kivira. Many others I can recommend. But that's where I'd start for like, you're going to have fun on spring break. Get this one in. You pretty much have to stay at a Pueblo Bonito property, and they have several of them in the area, including Pueblo Bonito Pacifica, right there. The golf course is right next door, and yeah, all the bells and whistles you want from a great resort. So Do that, and then when you need a break from all that golf, I mean, my favorite activity in Cabo is whale watching at during spring break at this time of year. And the last time down, I did this for the first time. A group called Cabo Adventures had kind of the equivalent of like 12 of us popping in a Zodiac style boat. I mean, you are very low. It's like a raft, and you are right there down on the water. Whereas a lot of the other boats and commercial craft that you can see, you're up higher. You're sailing along the way it is and great view. But I mean, if you want to be eye level with the whales that are jumping in and out, and there's that fin coming up, and there's a big spray and everything else, it's pretty dramatic and exciting in its own right. So, yeah, I mean, a plug for a worthy plug for something I really wasn't sure I would enjoy being that that close to the water, but it was awesome. So that's a good double dip with Pueblo Bonito is play their Quivira, and then go downtown to the marina and do a Cabo Adventures whale watching trip.
That is so cool. I It's something I've always wanted to do, and like been to Maui, and you can kind of look out, and they say, and see whales every now and then. Never actually seen them, much less up close and personal. So that's high on my list of like things I one day want to do. And the southern tip of the Baja Peninsula has called my name forever. I've never gotten the chance to actually go there, but it's one of those places that, Cabo, Myrtle Beach, like Panama City, Destin, that just scream spring break. And we're not going to talk about Destin and Panama City in this conversation, centered around golf, but those are just like if you could rifle off your top five spring break spots, like that, those would both be in the conversation.
Well, there you go. What others do you have, Al?
Well, I like the Gulf of Mexico, so I mean I have done spring break in Destin, and that was in college, and I'll just leave that there. What happens in Destin stays in Destin, sure. But I'm gonna go over to the area around like Tampa, St. Pete as my last pick. This may be not one that people expected to see on this list. Um, I think if you're starting for spring break, you start with the world famous white sand beaches there, like in the Siesta Key area. Yeah, I stayed at a resort called Casey Key Resorts in Osprey, which is also right there for a wedding. Magnificent beaches. If you just went to spend your entire time on the beach, there are a few places better than right there, outside of Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater, Bradenton, and Siesta Key is that one that's just like everyone raves about. But I like Tampa from a golf standpoint now because you've just gotten this proliferation of world class golf that's very close by, and this is sort of a maybe you don't spend all of your time on the spring break trip right there in Tampa, but you could spin off and get over to Innisbrook Resorts right there in Palm Harbor. Four courses, home of the Valspar Championship on the Copperhead course. Everyone knows that place, in close proximity to Tampa. But now you've got Stream Song and Bowling Green just southeast, not too far away. They're continuing to add to their portfolio, and now a fourth 18-hole course has been announced. It's their fifth overall because they added a 19-hole short course from Corn Crenshaw as well. That place is just blowing up. From Tampa, you could also go due north and go to the new Cabot Citrus Farms property, which we've talked plenty about. So, as your home and hub in Tampa for your trip, you can spur off to these other different places. And then this is another place where spring training is one of the highlights every spring. So we did a trip down there again with my dad, and the Yankees play right there in Lakeland, close by. You got the Phillies in Clearwater, the Pirates in Bradenton. Spring training is just if you're a baseball fan, even a marginal baseball fan, I think it's just one of those things you should probably check off your list because it's so cool to be able to see uh, these ballparks are all you're very close in proximity to the pros as they're gearing up for the season. You can bounce around from one part to the other, see a lot of baseball in a short amount of time, and just have a dog and a beer and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's spring break right there. With all of our spring training, Cactus League out in Arizona, um, I had a little bit of the Phillies Orioles game on the other day. Just a few innings uh, as I was having a little lunch, and I'm like, already, I'm feeling spring break relaxation wash over me. There's the spirit and hope of what's to come, and this is going to be our year kind of thing. And as you said, you're right up close to the action, and it's just that much more of a casual atmosphere. And I think that's what spring break is all about too. So yeah, so much good golf in the Tampa St. Pete area. And you mentioned Innisbrook, by the way, and interesting because when we did our podcast last time on second fiddles, Innisbrook's Island course could have been a perfect choice because Copperhead gets all the love, being the PGA Tour's venue, and it's worthy. I mean, it's a great golf course, but Island is a tremendous second course, so to speak, of the offerings there. And we learned at the PGA show that Island will have a renovation um, to spruce it up and make it as good as it can be again. And I was very happy to hear that because I've played that a couple times over the years. Little known trivia: Phil Mickelson won the NCAA championship at Innisbrook, played at the Island course, and he was at Arizona State getting that done. So, yep, Tampa St. Pete doesn't always get the golf love and the publicity that the Palm Beaches do because of all the tour pros that live up and down Palm Beach. But yeah, yeah, terrific for both buddies, families, couples, whatever kind of golf trip you're doing for spring break. Great call with Tampa St. Pete.
I'd also written down TPC Tampa Bay there in Lutz nearby. Bobby Weed course, hosted the PGA Tour Champions for 21 years, and that's another wonderful option for you as well. All you TPC chasers out there.
There you go.
All right, final pick, and then we'll go to if there's any other mentions we want to have in the Sun Belt, we'll do that at the end.
All right. Well, I kind of have a tie, and I'll explain why for my final pick. And it is between Palm Springs, California, Palm Springs area, also known as the Coachella Valley, uh, and another place you've probably heard of, Las Vegas. So, why is it a tie for me? It's pretty simple. Palm Springs offers very similar desert weather to what Phoenix Scottsdale does. What I especially love about Palm Springs are the closeness of the mountains. I mean, on some of the top courses there, you are not only in the shadows, but sometimes playing right into them. And that is a very fun aspect of the Palm Springs golf experience. You don't get that as much in the Phoenix Scottsdale. You get the desert hills and some good elevation changes, but we're talking serious mountains out west for Palm Springs. And, obviously you talk about PGA West as a little bit of the, place to go. They play the American Express PGA Tour event there, and longtime Bob Hope site. Pete Dye, one of his most famous courses. But, there's a lot of other bargain courses to be had in the area too that aren't very far away. Escena in Palm Springs proper was Nicholas design and is, a third of the cost at times compared to the trophy courses such as La Quinta Mountain and PGA West and Marriott Shadow Ridge is another beauty. A couple of par three courses that are worth mentioning, including a favorite out in Indio, uh, where it is lit for night play. And Again, these are choices you can make. Doesn't have to always be championship golf. Um, for whatever that's worth, if you just want to play some good golf, it doesn't have to be 7,000 yards worth. So, the golf course in Indio is aptly named called the Lights at Indio Golf Course. And there's another one in not too far away, a few minutes, called Shadow Hills, a Schmidt Curly design, which has a big course, but also a short course where you can buzz around and have a great time, still be challenged, and all of that. Okay, so Palm Springs and just has so many great golf resorts, and that's why I recommend it for spring break. Marriott's Desert Springs is a fun one. The Westin Mission Hills, uh, I mean, a bunch. There isn't necessarily a ton of stuff otherwise, to do that's on like somebody's must-do list sort of thing. That's where Las Vegas comes in. Okay, so yeah, Las Vegas, bachelor party, go out and practically the definition of fun. Um, so if Palm Springs has uh, like one casino, so to speak, connected with a golf course. It's the nice Clive Clark design, Eagle Falls Golf Course at the Fantasy Springs Resort Casino. Um, Las Vegas has 100 places that you can pop in, and at least a dozen or 15 wonderful sports books. And so for the Vegas golf, yeah, a whole bunch of big ticket items, including the big three of Shadow Creek, Wynn, and Cascada. But okay, by the same token, if you want to go play those, you can win that back in 15 minutes at the tables or the slots. So it's a little bit of a value proposition, depending if you want to spend that kind of money on golf. But you don't have to. You can go to a place like Angel Park, which is not too far from the strip, about 15 minutes. Two fun, wide open championship Arnold Palmer designs, the Mountain and the Palm, and then a 12-hole par three course called Cloud Nine, with replica style holes. Nine of the 12 are lit at night if you want to go do that at night. And then they also have a putting course, which is a lot of fun. So you can spend a little less money and still have a great time, whether you want to spend 4 hours, 9 hours, or just an hour and a half. And that would be Angel Park, my pick. As far as what to do off the course, my spring break connection is, of course, Al, March Madness. When you're out there for the NCAA games and you're in a sports book, there is nothing like it. There are so many screaming crazies because of the wagering that goes on in every game and the typical fantastic finishes and upsets and all the rest of it. And again, prices get a little higher on hotels and the rest of it. But if you can be out there for one of the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sundays of March Madness and the NCAA Hoops tournament, do it and combine it with golf. And it's going to be a really, really memorable spring break vacation.
I've done it, Joe. I've been out there for a bachelor trip. It was the opening weekend, the first round of the NCAA tournament. I still have a bone to pick with Kentucky for they won their game, but they didn't cover the spread that I had bet on. So I will never forget that. Um, absolutely, it's electric. Wherever you are watching those games in Vegas, and especially if you have a little money on the action. We love all of the options that you presented there, Joe. I love the ability to play some night golf, some night lit par threes, or putting courses and things of that nature. Uh, in the Sun Belt, is there anywhere else that you just wanted to throw out there as maybe another good option? I've got one to include.
I do feel like we're maybe missing the southern part of the middle of the United States. Have you got one?
I like, and this I haven't done this, but Texas Hill Country. It was kind of intriguing. I almost included it in the conversation just because um, I have been to Austin and really enjoyed it there. What a fun city that is. But whether you're talking about going to a place like the Omni Barton Creek for some upscale um, resort amenities and really good golf. You could play Lions Muni in Austin and just really relax and have a fun time on a well received course there. I just got a press release the other day from one of our uh, good friends at Link's Horseshoe Bay Resort on Lake LBJ. And they've got some spring break packages, but three Robert Trent Jones Sr. courses there on the lake. They've got pools. They've got a great putting course that's night lit as well. In terms of a one stop destination to spend spring break at, Horseshoe Bay is pretty attractive. I would highly consider looking into that if you're talking about that central U.S. For spring break.
I have been down to the Final Four in San Antonio, where we had some wonderful weather, a bunch of great public golf options in San Antonio, including TPC San Antonio, where they play the Valero Texas Open. And, maybe not want to time your visit right then and there, but then again, you could play other golf courses and go watch some PGA Tour golf, and that's kind of fun too. So, uh, yeah, I mean, the further obviously south you get in Texas, the nicer it'll be on average. In those days and months, and right. I mean, sometimes you forget that Texas, South Padre Island has some nice beaches in its own right, and some of the other Gulf states down there. Um, and and yes, those are still wonderful spring break destinations. Yeah, my brain typically works a little bit on both coasts, and I've done more of that, but not to be neglected, especially if it's an easier trip to make. Are those that are right along the Gulf. So, man, oh, it's fun talking about spring break at any age.
I know now I'm itching to go somewhere. I don't know what to do with myself. We're going to Pebble Beach in a few weeks, and that'll be a fun way to kick off spring. But now I've got some
Well,
other
actually,
things to think about.
you actually just trumped all of the other spring break choices that we made today, Al. Pebble Beach kind of, yeah, is kind of it at any time of year.
Not to be forgotten, the Monterey Peninsula. Yeah, hard not to have a great spring there. All right, Joe. Cool. Another one in the books. Thanks for your notes on this. Hope everyone has a great spring wherever you plan on spending your spring break or version of that. And we'll catch up with you next time.